Good afternoon. I'm Tonya Arnesen, Senior Pastor of Jackson First United Methodist Church, and this is Food for Thought for Friday, October the 16th. Last Friday, I began reading the chapter, a reflection on the month of October from Joyce Rupp's book, Fresh Bread, and I'm going to continue with her thoughts about what it means to be vulnerable. Last Friday, she discussed the way that the trees were willing to let go their leaves and that we can learn something important about letting go from the trees. She continues with these thoughts about being vulnerable. Being vulnerable does not mean being weak and allowing anyone or anything to hurt us. It is actually a great inner strength, which comes from freely choosing to be open to being wounded because we are open to loving in the manner in which Jesus loved. To be vulnerable in this way is to freely choose to be open to the other, no matter who that other is. To stand firmly on our convictions amid controversy. To risk our voice or actions, even though there's a possibility of being understood, misunderstood, rejected, thwarted, or even condemned. To share from our faith, even though we may be questioned or ignored, laughed at, or thought to be stupid. To risk failure in order to discover and use our giftedness and potential. To love and to continue loving, even when there is no positive response from the other being loved. Most important, to be vulnerable is to know the paradoxical power in surrendering ourselves to God. It is to allow the power of God's Spirit to take over and to move through our being. It is to know that by ourselves we can do nothing, but with a surrendered heart we can do all things through the one who gives us strength. With a surrendered heart we can have the power in us to do infinitely more than we can ask or imagine. We can easily forget this gift of power and try to shield ourselves from any possible hurt, pain, question, doubt, heartache, risk, any of the tough stuff of life. Again, I think of the trees and I look to them. Have you ever noticed that some trees still have leaves hanging onto them in deep December? Long after autumn, the dead brown things clutch in clumps at ends of branches or trail alone at the end of a twig. They must know that eventually winter claims them all. Like the leaves are those humans who think that growth is possible without letting go. They deny, fight, or refuse to accept what is being asked in order that new life can take place. This October, let us pause and allow the falling leaves to remind us of the call to be vulnerable, the call to be open to the possibility of being hurt, the call to accept and grow from the daily dyings of our days, and to love as Jesus loved. Go for a walk in the forest, or just down the street if you have some trees nearby whose leaves have turned. Let your heart roam through the leaves. Think thoughts of vulnerability. Pick up a leaf. Take it home with you. Place it somewhere where you will see it often. Let it remind you of the call to be vulnerable. Take time to browse through a gospel. Note all the times that Jesus opened himself to hurt and misunderstanding. Allow yourself to be a bit more open and vulnerable to someone whom you love. Surrender yourself a bit more to God's power working through you. Let October be a time when the value of vulnerability is strengthened in your life. I want to close with this question. C.S. Lewis said, "To love at all is to be vulnerable." Recall the significant loves of your life. What have you learned and experienced in your loving? This week, our lay leader, John Hawthorne, will be bringing us a word about vulnerability and about reconciliation in his sermon titled Paul, Apollos, and Division. As we come upon a near time of voting where there is great contention in our world, John has a hopeful and encouraging word for all of us. I hope that you will be in worship either in person or online from your home this Sunday, October the 18th. In the meantime, be blessed and be well, and know that you are beloved. Amen.